For nearly 50 years, a 62-acre stretch of land in Custer, South Dakota, served as a gateway to the Stone Age. Opening its gates in 1966, the Flintstones theme park wasn't just a roadside stop. It was a full-scale immersion into the world of Bedrock. Welcome to the History Below the Pines Storytellers Collection. I'm your host, Levi Kessler, and this is episode 3. The Black Hills Cartoon Theme Park. Flintstones theme park featured everything from character houses and a live-action show to a miniature railroad that would wound through Dinosaur Canyon. It was the place where Mount Rockmore stood tall and the smell of Bronto burgers filled the air. But as the saying goes, it's now a page right out of history. Today we are exploring the life and the legacy and the legal battle that eventually led to the demolition of this Black Hills icon. To truly understand the magic of the park, we are sitting down to talk to the man who brought the main character to life. His name is Keith, and he is the guy who played Fred Flintstone. Well, thank you, Keith, for joining me. Appreciate it. And you had mentioned...
Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah. So you had mentioned that you were Fred Flintstone, is that correct?
That is correct, sir. Yes, sir.
So can you tell us how many years did you work there, and what was your favorite part of being Fred Flintstone?
Well, I worked there for one summer. It was the summer of '89. I was a sophomore that year, and there was a lot of good parts about it. That's probably one of the most fun jobs I ever had. You got to meet all kinds of people. You move around, just see different types of people. It was an amazing job. I loved it. I loved it. It was a day on, day off from open to close. So it was a good job. Busy but good.
What do you think was your favorite thing about working at Flintstones Park in Custer?
I think it was just the biggest part of it was probably just getting to meet just all types of people. I mean, people from all over the countryside come there. So you got to just meet different types of people. And I hadn't been out of a 4-state region when I was working there. So, it's pretty sheltered, if you will, that way. So that was probably my favorite part.
Interesting. Okay. So were there any negatives to working at the park?
Now that I sit and I thought about it, back then it was like I mentioned, it was one day on, one day off, and it almost felt like you didn't have any real time. But logically, I mean, I only worked half the summer, so it really wasn't that bad. That was probably about the only negative part about that job.
And I have to ask, was it hot? Like, I mean, in the summertime, Custer can be in the 60s and 70s, sometimes 70s and 80s. So I'm sure that Fred
Yeah,
Flintstone costume got a little bit toasty.
it was pretty warm. Yeah, I was in on the latter years of the costume that I know of, so it was just a big fiberglass head with the cape draped around the bottom side of it, and it did. You sat out in the sun, you're out in the sun for a little bit. It got pretty warm under there, so 9 times out of 10, you're down in swim trunks and a t-shirt, and that's all you had on.
I love that. So, do you have a fun story from working at the park back in the day? Does anything stick out? Of course, you saw many families, many different visitors, but is there one story that really sticks out?
Yes, sir. This one particular day, it was a little cool out, and so the costumes also had like the pants part of it and the arms part, so your whole body was covered. And I was sitting on a bench down by the waterfall in the theater one day, and I'm just watching people. I'm sitting still, just watching people, and this couple with their kids comes walking by, and they kind of standing out in front of me. And the lady, she's looking around and she keeps eyeballing me here and there, and I'm not moving, I'm just watching. And she gets up, she comes up to me to get real close, and I just raised my hand up and I said, "Hello." And she jumped about 6 feet in the air and screamed the loudest scream I ever heard. I scared the bejesus out of her. It made me laugh. That I'll never forget that.
That is a great story. That's pretty funny. So you obviously saw the park in its heyday. What was the park like?
Um, it was Man, it was there was like something to do for everybody. It was just a whole bunch of different. I mean, you had the theater, you had the different little the shop, you had the train ride, you had the food part of it. Um, it was There was just a lot of different stuff to see and just do. I mean, it wasn't just for one person. You even They even had the Fred or the Bonnie card, depending on which one they were running that day, running the loop, giving people rides. It was just, they had the playground for the kids. And not going to lie, I went through it many a time during that summer.
Yeah, I know what playground, the exact playground you're speaking of. Was it the one with the long snake?
Yep, that's the one.
Yeah, I recall that snake being there even in like 2015, 2016 area. Uh, and I remember the snake being long, and I was a freshman in college at that time, and I didn't even want to go through it. So I couldn't imagine being a little kid trying to go through it.
Oh yeah, and it was kind of tight quarters when you got in there too. It wasn't real tall, so kind of had to crawl through it.
Yeah, it was like a weird mix of like cement and
Yeah,
uh, chewed up gum and whatever else was in there.
yeah.
I don't think anyone else really wanted to ask questions on what was in that snake.
No, and to be honest with you, I don't even know how many times it ever got cleaned because I never saw anybody clean it.
So, how many years were you Fred Flintstone for?
Just the one summer, and that was it.
And how'd you come upon the job? I mean, I couldn't imagine. Was it like listed on the wall somewhere and said job position become Fred Flintstone for a summer? Or what does that
No,
look like?
if I remember correctly, a friend of mine had worked there in the past and suggested that I go try it and just see. So I did. I showed up and interviewed for the Fred spot.
Yeah, that's fun. So I was doing some research and I saw that there was a Fred Flintstone car
Yes, sir.
up and down Main Street. Did you get to drive that?
I drove the Barney car in the parade, the Gold Discovery Parade, one of those years, that year. And yes, I did occasionally drive the Fred Flintstone car in that loop there in the park, giving out rides.
So was that what did that look like? Was it a actual car that was put together? Was it like a golf cart? Was it what was it?
It was actually a Volkswagen Bug frame and motor that they built the Flintstone car body just to sit over the top of the frame. They were both Volkswagen Bugs.
Interesting.
Yeah, they were kind of cool. Little four speeds.
Okay, so they had everything from the theater to different stores to a restaurant. Were there animatronics too?
There were, yes, sir. Uh, I can't remember if it was well, in a lot of the several little buildings they had animatronics. One of them that was like a little play or a little band of. I remember a pterodactyl being in there, and I think a bear. We're talking 30 plus years ago. So, it's my memory's kind of, I haven't thought about that place for a long time. So, but yeah, there were animatronics there. You could actually go in and watch a little show. And then they even had the cartoon theater where they just did the Flintstone cartoons on just over and over and over again.
That's super fun. Yeah, I think I saw some old YouTube video that you can find out there on the internet still of it. It showed a small little tiny TV showing the cartoons.
Yes. Yep.
So, of course, 2015, somewhere in there, is when the park was slated to close. What was your initial reaction when you heard that the park was closing?
Oh, that was kind of a bummer because I remember going to that place when I was a kid. My mom still has pictures of that somewhere when I was just young, and so to be able to go back and be an employee, during my high school years, to then hearing it close, I like I never did understand why, and I don't even know if I ever knew why. But it was just kind of that was a bummer because that was like a major attraction for that area.
Yeah, it was a big attraction. I think it took the community and the entirety of the Black Hills by shock when
Yeah.
they were closing. I know it was due to a few different reasons, including some trademark issues, and then current owners wanting to step down and retire.
Okay.
Um, but when it came to the park, I feel like it was just an iconic location, and there's so many memories there.
Yes, I agree. I agree.
So Velma, this was another big question. Did any of your friends play Velma? Do you remember
Um,
the other
so
characters?
Wilma and Betty, they brought them out very seldom that I remember. And I think about the only one of the times that I remember was during the parade. But other than that, it was just the Fred and Barney that they utilized in the theme park itself. And that was
Okay.
it.
Yeah, and when we say theme park, it didn't have rides necessarily, correct? It had a
Right.
train.
Yes. Yeah, it had a train, and that was about it. Yeah, but the just the whole park there, that just the Fred and Barney.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, and then so walk us down Main Street. So on the quote unquote, Flintstone Bedrock City Main Street, we had like I noted it looked like you had Fred's house, and then
Right.
was there a police station and a newspaper?
So now I got to think about this. Like I said, it's been 30 plus years. Um, so there was Fred's house. There was a fire department. There was a radio station. You did have the police station. Um, I remember uh, there was the butcher shop where the butcher was trying to cut off the turtle's head, but every time he swung his axe down, the turtle's head sucked back into the shell right before he got to the head. I remember that. Uh, Geez, what else? There's probably six or eight different buildings down there.
Yeah, I mean
Oh.
I'm looking at old photos. I see uh Fred's main house.
Yep. And then you had Barney's house up there somewhere too. And
Looks
I
like
remember,
Dino Supreme or regular. There was some kind of building that looks like the car went through.
okay,
Oh
an old, like a mechanic shop kind of deal.
yeah, that would be it.
Yeah.
Looks like there was a little restaurant. What do you remember about that?
Down the main street or on the outside?
On the outside.
They had the best ice cream. That's what I remember of that. I loved their ice cream. Every chance I got, I got an ice cream like a blizzard. I don't know. I don't remember what they called it, but they had the best ice cream.
Huh, it looks like it was called Bronto Burgers and Dinosaur Shakes.
Yes, that's it right there. God, it's been a long time.
So looking at the photo of the building here, actually has the menu up, and they had the Bronto Burger, the Super Bronto, the Cheese Bronto, Super Cheese, the Torontosaurus, Chuckosaurus, Dino Dog, Corn Dog. I think the shakes are probably my favorite. Chocolate, cherry, pineapple, butterscotch, vanilla, banana. I mean, they all sound good.
Yeah, yeah. The food was pretty good too, but I mainly went for the ice cream,
Yeah, it looks like it was good food.
and it always seemed like it was always busy too.
That's what
Mm,
a lot of folks have told us is that that was a very busy place.
Yeah, there's always people there. So it just kind of blows my mind that they end up closing that place down because man, they got a lot of business.
Yeah, that's I top search on Google is Bedrock City still open in Custer.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh? That's crazy.
So I think a lot of people are still reliving their childhood, wanting to take, I suppose they came here as a child and they want to take their kids there.
Yeah. Yeah, it's great memories there, great place. Yeah, that place that is like I said, that's just one of the most fun jobs I ever had. And if I could do it all over again, I'd do it in a heartbeat.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, I appreciate you sharing this with me and the stories. Super interesting. And of course, playing Fred Flintstone is an iconic role. Not anyone can go out there into the world and said, "Hey, my past job, I played Fred Flintstone." That's something neat for the resume.
Yeah, it is. It's kind of a unique situation.
Well, thank you so much, Keith. I appreciate you coming onto the podcast and joining us today.
You're welcome. Thank you very much for inviting me.
Well, there you go. Keith definitely had a great time keeping the crowd entertained. But it takes more than just a loud shout and a leopard print tunic to keep a prehistoric city from crumbling. You need someone behind the curtain making sure the rock wheels are greased and the dinosaurs are running on time. That's where Alex comes in. Alex helped manage the day to day operations of this 62-acre vision, and today we are sitting down with her to hear what she has to say about the park. So, Alex, you had mentioned that you worked at Flintstone Park in Custer.
Yes,
Can you tell
I
us
did.
a little bit about that?
Absolutely. Yeah, I worked there for about 4 years. The park was iconic. A lot of people think that it kind of just fizzled out because of the Flintstones being old. But actually, we were steady. Like we always had a lot of people coming in. People loved how retro it was. It actually more fizzled out due to like boring kind of paperwork, copyright issues with Warner Brothers. Um, it was not because of lack of interest in the Flintstones at all. Um, yeah, we'd have people coming in like full costumes, Fred and Barney, Wilma and Betty, sometimes kids in Pebbles and Bam Bam costumes, all the way up until the end there. So it was cool.
I love that. So, what was your exact position at Flintstone Park?
So I started out there in tickets. I just, was the guy that handed you the ticket, told you about the park. It was actually super boring. We sat there for 12 hours a day and we weren't allowed to use our phones, which at the time was like slider phones, nothing too exciting. Um, but it was boring on rainy days and stuff, so I would draw. And I was inspired by the characters, so I would draw the characters. Well, then I'd have an older guy come through, and at the time, the Flintstones was being managed by like they were outsourcing management. And so I didn't realize that this guy owned the place. And so he would just kind of come through. I could tell he was an employee because he'd have the shirt on, but I just thought he was an employee there. Well, then later that winter, he gave me a call and asked me if I would do art because they had lost their art guy. Um, and I was surprised to find out that that guy owned the place. And he had seen my drawings. And so I did art for a winter because it's a seasonal business. And then that following year, I was asked to be the assistant manager at the diner. And then by the end of that year, the manager had left and I had taken her place as manager of the diner. And then the following year, I actually was asked to be the assistant to the general manager. So I left there as the assistant general manager.
So, you kind of did everything, really.
I I did, yes. So that winter, in between being the diner manager and the assistant general manager, I actually worked on the construction crew because they needed help and there wasn't much for me to do as for management. There was nobody to manage. So I helped build the cabins that winter. So I actually worked in every department.
That's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
So, out of all those jobs, out of the entire park career, what do you think your favorite job was at Flintstones Park?
I loved being in the costumes. Yeah, being Fred and Barney was really fun. People would come up to you super excited, take pictures. We'd sign autographs. Yeah, I love doing the costumes.
That's super fun. We
Yeah.
actually just finished talking to Keith Myers,
Okay.
who played Fred Flintstone, I believe in the 70s or 80s, somewhere in there. And he had
Okay. Yep.
mentioned that the Fred Flintstone costume got very, very hot in the
Yep.
summertime.
Yep. That is very true. We always tried to hire young kids for that, because the adults didn't want to do it 12 hours a day. Um, and actually, that was, I will just launch into a memory that I was going to share with you. Um, so when I took over hiring and firing, I wanted to make it my mission to hire fun kids for that position, that really embodied Fred and Barney. Um, and one year, I had a great group of kids. And it was all fun and games, until I was sitting up in my office, like typing away, doing my manager thing. And I get a call from my boss, the GM, saying that I needed to control my my Fred and Barney better because they were dancing on top of the buildings out in they had found a ladder, these boys, they made it their personal mission to be the coolest Fred and Barney, and they were on top of the buildings. And I do have a video of that somewhere I'm gonna try to find for you. So
That's amazing. That
yeah, they were awesome.
sounds like some boys gone crazy there.
Yeah, yeah, it was cool. I felt like I knocked it out of the park after that with my hiring that year.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So, any negatives to working at the park?
Uh, there's negatives to every job. They've, I don't know. The costumes were hot. The diner didn't have AC, so we roasted over there too. But for the most part, people had a fun energy there, and it was a good job overall.
Interesting. On the note of the
Yeah,
diner, I have
yeah,
been told that they had some of the best ice cream.
they did. Yeah, we made homemade sherbet there.
Okay,
So we ran vanilla ice cream through one side of our machine, and then we made a unique sherbet flavor every 5 days in the other machine. So we didn't run chocolate there; it was always a color. So when you'd get a twist cone, it would be like white and a cool color. And then we were known for that downtown. So it
that's
was
super
cool.
fun. Yeah, I
Yeah.
was looking at the menu. It looked like a Bronto burger,
Yep.
and they're
Yeah.
fun names. Super fun,
Yep.
super creative.
Thank you. That was my doing.
I love that.
Yeah. Awesome.
I think when we were looking for the postcards, we couldn't even find the postcard that had the menu on it. They were so popular.
Oh, funny. Yeah.
So, what would you say, other than, your Fred and Barney interaction dancing on the rooftops? What would you say is a favorite story of yours working at the park?
Um, it was fun every year at the Gold Discovery Days. We would take um the big Fred car down to the parade, and that was really fun. We'd take the guys down in full costume, and the kids loved it. Kids really responded to it. So I loved doing that every year. It was my favorite thing. So
That's super fun. So,
yeah.
walking through the town, there was several buildings, correct? Was there over
Yes.
12 buildings?
So yes, oh man, there was probably 12 buildings. Yeah, over 12. We ran a train, and we ran the Fred Flintstone car. It was 62 acres total, with the park, and then we had the campground on the back of the park. The campground, it had a cool gift shop building that was the Flintstones themed. And back in the day, they had some Flintstones like camping cabins. By the time I worked there, those were gone, and you can't really build stuff like that with regs anymore. And so we built regular cabins. But they had a little mini golf course, and yeah, like a swimming pool and stuff. It was cool.
Fun. That sounds like a
Yeah,
blast.
yeah,
Yeah,
it was really cool.
looking back, it's cool that they left some of the old memorabilia, you know,
Yep.
The train is obviously still there.
Hmm.
It looks like
Yep.
they started running that train last summer again.
Did they? Yeah, I wondered if they were ever going to do anything with it.
So that's kind of fun.
Yeah, that is fun.
So you had mentioned that you kind of helped with the closing.
Hmm.
What did
I
that look
did.
like? What was your initial reaction when you heard that the park was closing?
I was really disappointed when I heard that we were going to have to close the park. But I knew the family that owned the park pretty well, and both of them, it was brothers. They were both getting older, so I kind of had seen it coming. But I was disappointed. I was expecting my first baby that year, and I had wanted to take him to the park. So, yeah, it was a bummer when the news first dropped, and the town was definitely not happy about it. In fact, our last day of operation, I have a photo I can send over if you're interested of the line that we had out the door. It like stretched all the way across the parking lot. People getting in their last look at Flintstones. So
Wow, that's impressive.
yeah,
That
yeah,
was a busy day for you guys.
it was. Yeah, it was a long day.
So, reading the different articles and doing a little bit of research that I did, there's a lot of discrepancies out there on why the park exactly closed.
Okay.
Um, what would you say was the main cause of the park closing?
So the main cause was that every year we had to renew our copyright with Warner Brothers. Um, and the last 5 years or so, they had kind of not wanted to renew our contract anymore. We were a small park. They had phased out the other parks. There was only three, I believe, in the United States, and the other two had already closed. Um, I believe the one in Arizona is still standing, but it's closed. And they were just really not interested because the Flintstones were outdated to them. So they didn't want to renew our copyright, and without our copyright, we can't sell merch. We can't, run the majority of the park without it, legally. So that was the main reason. The secondary reason was, like I mentioned, the advanced age of the owners, and they were just ready to be done, I think. But yeah, overall, that was the main reasons. We were still wildly popular. It was not a popularity issue. So yeah,
Interesting.
yeah.
Okay, so what would you say was the class favorite at the park? I talked to a lot of different individuals, and they tell me I loved meeting Barney, I loved meeting Fred. Here was my favorite building. What would you say was your favorite building?
Definitely the post office. I thought the parrot was really cool. We had a mechanical parrot in it. And Fred was our most asked for character, especially for birthday parties and stuff. So,
That's super fun.
yeah.
So
Yep.
were the wives there? I mean, I've been told that they made brief appearances, but that Fred and Barney were out 24/7.
So, the years that I worked there, Fred and Barney were the only characters that we ran. But in the past, I have been told, and I've seen photos that they did run the other characters. They would hire people that looked like those characters to run those. That was what I was informed of anyway. Um, Back when there was adults that wanted to do that job. So, more like the 70s and the
Interesting.
80s. Yeah, they didn't in my lifetime, I don't believe that they ran the other characters. So,
Huh.
yeah.
So the buildings got tore down, obviously.
Yeah. No.
Um, but it's a fun memory, and that's what we're trying to keep alive.
Yeah.
A lot of folks, I think, search is the Flintstone Park still open? Matter of fact, I Google searched it earlier, and it was a top search for a Black Hills search engine, and it said, "Is Flintstone's theme park still open in Custer, South Dakota?"
Yeah.
So that's kind of fun. I think a lot of people probably enjoyed the park and wanted to bring their kids here.
Absolutely. Yep, the nostalgia kept it alive.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Well, it was a fun park, and a lot of people made memories there. I
Yeah.
know I remember driving by and seeing the Flintstone sign. I've always
Yeah.
wondered where the sign went. You know?
Um, I don't know. I know, so every year we took each character um was removable. And so every winter we took them down and they went to the warehouse. And the year that we closed down, they went to the warehouse like normal. But that would have been the property of the new owner. So I imagine that they likely got destroyed, but I don't know that for sure.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, those are all fun facts and stories. Thank you for sharing. I
Yeah.
appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Alex, thank you for sharing that behind the scenes look at what it took to truly manage such a massive legacy in the Black Hills. Well, Alex may have helped keep the city running like clockwork, but as any traveler knows, you can't fully experience a new town or theme park, even one made of concrete and cartoon logic, without checking out the local shops and grabbing a bite to eat. To find the true flavor of the Bedrock theme park, we have to head towards the neon lights of the diner. Today we are sitting down with Joe, who ran the gift shop and the diner. In early 2013, Joe and her husband stepped away from their jobs in Montana to help a relative start a company. That path took them from Texas to Nebraska, and finally, on the trek back home to Montana, they found themselves on the main road going through Custer, South Dakota. Right there they saw it, the Flintstones campground and theme park. And this is where Joe's story comes into play. Thank you for joining us here on the History Below the Pines podcast. First, can we ask who you are?
My name is Joe Coyer.
So, you had mentioned kind of a serendipity story. You guys drove through Custer, South Dakota, and you saw the Flintstones theme park, and the rest was just kind of history. So, when you first pulled into Custer and you said 2013, what was
Yes.
your initial impression of the park's scale? Did it feel like a theme park? What was your initial reaction?
I guess I was really excited about just going in and looking at the memorabilia. So I didn't really know that there was a theme park for Flintstones. I'd never seen one. I'd never seen it advertised. So it was kind of a surprise for me. And because I love the Flintstones and grew up with them, I had to stop for the memorabilia and just to see what it was like. I saw the little train and I thought that was really cool. So I wasn't quite sure what the park entailed. My feeling was that there was so much more that could have been done to it. But it was quaint. I had fun. I got a lot of ideas rolling around in my head. What I would do if it were mine, if it were my park. But I loved it. I loved the idea and I loved the theme and I loved the artwork that was there. It was beautiful and amazing. The attractions, they had a Barney car and a Fred car, and that was just really fun to go around the track in those. And it was just quaint. I mean, I think there could have been a lot more done to it, but I know the general manager was trying and working on that, but there was only so much you can do with copyrights and then ownership. So
Sure. So you had mentioned being like a kid in the candy store in the gift shop.
absolutely.
I think we all catch ourselves being kids in the candy shop when we're in gift shops at various theme parks, right? But
Right.
what was the very first piece of memorabilia that caught your eye?
Well, the very first thing as I walked in was the statues, the Wilma and the Fred statues. And of course I had to pose, like Wilma, and had to get my husband over by Fred and holler out, Wilma, just it was just a lot of fun watching or seeing the statues and remembering that time period and that cartoon that ran forever in my childhood. So then there was, of course, there was, shirts and things like that that I had to like hold up and, pretend I was a character like Betty and Fred and Barney, and seeing anything Dino. Oh my goodness, anything Dino, caught my eye. So there was a lot of different things, but there were other Warner Brothers memorabilia in there, which was a lot of fun too, because I grew up with them. But I don't know. Yeah, the statues were impressive to me. I think I had a lot of fun with those. And the toys. They had toys that were, from my childhood and from probably my parents' childhood as well. And I thought that was really unique and pretty cool. So I played. I just played.
What an awesome job. So, speaking of job, what was your exact job title at the park?
When I first was hired, I was a gift shop attendant. The manager approached me as I was playing that very first time there and said, "Oh, we could sure use that spirit in here, and we are hiring." And she was kind of not joking, but joking, and I started joking and not joking right back at her. We just kind of played with words for a little bit, and then, what would that look like? And I told her it would be a blast, to work there. I thought that would be what a cool job, So I started out as the gift shop attendant, and later on I transferred to the diner manager.
Okay. So, what would you say out of both of those jobs? What would you say was the most interesting? What would you say was the most fun?
Well, surely the manager of the gift store thought I could sell anything. And I loved that because I loved playing with the customers. She would hand me a product and I would go like these little hand puppets or like furry animal puppets. And I would carry one in my arms like I was carrying an animal, and I would talk to the kids with it, things like that. I would just have fun. There was those little skip things that you put around your ankle, and it's tied to a string, a little bell thing, and you skip, with it. And I got parents and kids to try and see who could do it the longest. So I had a lot of fun. I played a lot with the customers in the gift store, and I had a lot of fun doing that. But my true love was the diner. They were thinking about closing it, and because they said it was just a loss, and a loss of money is what I was told. It didn't bring in any money. I had been in concessions before. My husband and I owned a concession stand at one point and worked fairs. And I thought, it doesn't bring in any money. That's crazy, because food vendors make crazy money, or can, if they've got a good product. And so I was like, this should be a cash cow, So things went on in the diner, and they were having trouble keeping help over there. And I, told the general manager they need someone that can really relate to the kids and work with the kids that work there, because you hire the young kids their first job, and they're learning work ethics and things like that. And my background, my career, previous career, was a social worker. I had a lot of I don't know, family communication skills and experience. And so I said, you really need somebody over there that can manage the kids and work with the kids and make it fun for them. And so they put me over there to manage the diner. And yeah, that was it. That was my heartthrob right there. That diner was like like heaven to me. I loved it. It was hard work. We did a lot of scrubbing and cleaning up, but it was fun. We made it fun. I went to vendor fairs and picked some different products, new food, and created a few different menu items. They had their ice cream there was amazing, and it's the best product I've ever had. And I loved the way they were able to create different. They could create different flavors, like cherry limeade and things like that. And so every 3 days we switched out the flavors, and we had a schedule. And even the townspeople would come and order on those. They would get a copy of the schedule, and they would come and order on those days, order ice cream on those days. And then when we cleaned out the machines, we put everything in pints and quarts and stuff like that, and sold it, as pints and quarts. And so we had a lot of locals, that were really, really into the ice cream product there.
Sure,
So
that's super fun. And we've heard that the food was really good there. You are not the first person to tell us this. We've spoke to a few individuals now who just went on and on about how good the food was at this diner.
yeah, so we changed a few things, and we got and we raised just by cents. We just raised the rates just a little bit, not much, where we really losing money compared to how the diner was being managed. Because on peak times you do warrant more customer service, more employees, but during the slower times, you bring that back to the fact that you don't need that many employees on schedule at that point in time. It just wasn't being managed. It just wasn't being managed properly. And so I started, getting in there and tweaking those little things. And when we got a compliment on the food, the kids could ring a bell, or the clients could ring a bell, or they would tell us, this is really good. This is really good food. And we'd all go, the whole team would go, yabba dabba do. I just made little things like that to make it, fun for the kids. And there was a train whistle that was sitting in the shop, and we got this idea that if we could hook it up and set it outside the customer window, that if they liked the food, they could ring the bell. And it was crazy. We really thought that we were trying to make everything fun, but we didn't end up getting that going the way we wanted it to. So but we had a lot of fun. We sang songs, and we played with the customers. And when the customers wanted something different, we met the customers, desires. We wanted to make it fun for them. So
Sure. As I listen to you, I'm reading the reviews. TripAdvisor has some old reviews on it, and people are saying best ice cream in the state of South Dakota. The things I
Yep.
would do to have this food once again. I promise I'm not crazy. They have the best burgers.
Yep.
This goes on and on. This place, it was legendary. This diner, this park was iconic.
Absolutely. It really was. And that's what and it made it fun. The park, to me, the park was in itself was legendary. It needed a park attendant and some games out there. My idea is thinking that, I had a conversation with the owner at one point when he said, oh, people aren't coming anymore. The crowds are getting less frequent, da 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 da. Our numbers are going down. And I told him we need to put games out there. He said it's the older people that are coming. The older people are bringing their grandkids and stuff. And I said, bingo, bingo, right there. We can expand on that. We can make that work for us in that we put the games out there that these grandparents used to play, right? And have them teach the younger ones and get families competing against each other, in these games. You just need a facilitator out there and the games out there. That would have been the cheapest way to, I think, revive the park. And I had so many ideas, but he kept insisting that numbers were going down. And I was like, we can pick them up. I was like, I love this place. I mean, when you love what you do, that's the best job in the world, right?
Exactly. And it's true. You look at the stories and all the comments on the Facebook post about the park, and it's just comment after comment. I loved taking my kids there. Wish I could take my kids there. I went there as a kid. I mean, it's really neat to see this through the generations and all the memories and the stories and the photos. And then even on YouTube, there's old black and white video and then some old colored homemade camera video from way back in the day, probably the 70s. And it just
Right.
shows the park in its heyday and it looks like a blast. It was such a
Yeah.
unique and interesting location and it brought everyone together. It was something to do in Custer. Not that there's not anything to do, there's tons to do in
Yeah,
Custer
there is.
present day.
Right.
This park was iconic. This park was
But really, where can you go to play with your kids? Where can you go to share your childhood games with your kids? I just thought that would have made that park, just Zoom. I just thought it would be amazing to get something like that going in the park. And I told him I'd be happy to facilitate it. I'd be happy to train people and get them out there. And, we just needed people who wanted to go play and have fun with the people that were coming in there, because a lot of people loved it. They loved walking around the little village, and going to the theater and watching the cartoons and, seeing the different setups. Those setups, some were animated, some were not, but those setups, you could have live people in there, actors and actresses in there, kids that wanted to come and that were in drama and loved drama and do specific things, to incorporate the guests, and the constituents in there. I think we could have made it amazing. If I would have had the money, I would have bought it. Hands down, I would have bought it. But there's no way I had.
I think you say that, and I think a lot of other people say that exact thing.
Yeah. It was fun. It was just a fun place to be. The vibe was always cheery and up, and all the families coming through. The kids were happy, and if somebody complimented the food and they all heard all of us yell "Yabba Dabba Doo," then they got to yelling "Yabba Dabba Doo" back at us, and we'd have so much fun doing stuff like that and interacting with the crowds. It was just an amazing place. I loved it. I loved it. So I just wish it was still there. I miss it so much.
Yeah, I think you and 1,000 others. So you worked at the diner, and then you also worked at the gift shop, like we've talked about. Did your husband work at the park?
Yes, he was the maintenance manager. And so he did a lot of the maintenance work with the crew and painting, repainting things. Wade Urban was the general manager. He did a lot of the amazing artwork was his. So they did all the cabin fix-ups and then put some new cabins out and different things like that. So he did that, and he drove the train. So on times when the train was scheduled to run, he ran up to the train and ran the train. So that was a lot of fun for him, and he totally enjoyed that. We both enjoyed living there and working there and being a part of that atmosphere. It was a beautiful time in our life. So it's something that we cherish, those memories.
Well, Joe, thank you so much for sharing all these memories and stories with us.
You are
I know
so
the
welcome. Thank you for contacting me. I so appreciate it. Keeping the memories alive, it's important. That park is very important.
Joe, thank you so much for sharing that. It's incredible how a single road trip can turn into a whole career chapter in life. Even though you weren't there for the end, hearing your perspective on the diner's heyday helps the viewers finally understand exactly what was lost when the park finally closed. It's a bittersweet ending. The houses, the buildings, the theme park, all leveled. But, it's the memories that keep it alive. History has a way of leaving a footprint. If you drive by the old site today, you'll still see the dinosaur on the hill standing tall. He's recently been restored with a fresh coat of paint and is a lone survivor of the legacy of the park. He stands as a reminder of the time when Bedrock lived in the Black Hills. Do you have memories of old Bedrock City? Maybe a photo from the railroad or a story about the theme park? Or maybe your first Bronto Burger? We'd love to hear from you. Feel free to send us a DM or a private message or even an email. We would love to see those memories and help keep those memories alive. This has been History Below the Pines Storytellers Collection. I'm Levi Kessler, and we will see you next time further down the trail. Catch us right back here next week at 7 a.m. for another new podcast episode. History Below the Pines Storytellers Collection is a production of History Below the Pines. Our special thanks to our storytellers today, Keith for taking us inside the suit of the world's most famous caveman, Alex for guiding us through the massive undertaking of managing a prehistoric city theme park, and Joe for sharing the journey that led from a Montana road trip to the heart of the diner in Bedrock City theme park. Executive producer and host, Levi Kessler. I'm your lead researcher, and I do the sound design. Thank you so much for joining us on today's episode, and we hope to see you right back here next week.